We have with us today Mr. Subodh Bhargava, Chairman of Tata Communications Ltd. Shri Subodh Bhargava received degree in mechanical engineering from the erstwhile University of Roorkee, now IIT Roorkee, in 1962 and began his professional career with Balmer Lorry and Company at Calcutta. Thereafter, he joined the Eicher Group of Companies in 1975 and quickly rose up the ladder to become the chairman and chief executive of the group in 1997, a position he held till his retirement in 2000. Shri Bhargav was the president of Association of Indian Automobile Manufacturers and vice president of Tractor Manufacturers Association, in which capacity he made exemplary contributions to the Indian automobile industry, rendering valuable service to the nation in developing and nurturing the automobile industry through total quality management, research and development, technology, and the customer. His stewardship of the Eicher Group led to a paradigm shift in the basic approach of the company by diversifying from a single product and single location enterprise to a multi-product and multi-location conglomerate of a global stature. The Confederation of Indian Industry deservedly honored him for enterprise by electing him its president during 1994 and 1995. He was a key spokesperson for Indian industry, contributing to and influencing government policy at the national level, while simultaneously working with the industry through adopting value and ethics-based practices, exemplary corporate governance, innovation, and globalization to evolve new responses to the changing environment. Shri Bhargav was a member of several government-appointed task forces and committees, like Justice Erari Committee for Insolvency Laws, the Nair Committee to study the future perspectives for sustainable growth of ordnance factories, the Committee of the Technology Development Board, the Professor Ishwar Dayal Committee on the future perspective for management education in India, and the Professor P. Rama Rao Review Committee for the Indian Institute of Technology. He was a member of Senate of University of Roorkee, member Board of Governors of IIM Indore, IIM Lucknow, IIFT New Delhi, and Entrepreneur Development Institute, Ahmedabad. He is currently the chairman of Tata Communications Ltd, GlaxoSmithKline Healthcare Ltd, TRF Ltd, Tata Communications International Private Ltd. He's also on the advisory board of Watsala India Ltd and a member of the board of Tata Steel Ltd, Tata Motors Ltd, Larsen and Toubro Ltd, Bartley Boyle Ltd, Sunborn Energy Holdings LLC, Bharatiya Yuva Shakti Trust, National Center for Promoting Employment for Disabled Persons, Center for Policy Research, Technology Development Board, IIM Kashipur, and other institutions for graduate engineering and bachelor's and master's program in business management. Conferred in 2005 by IIT Roorkee, its first Distinguished Alumnus Award, and in 2011 Gaurav Shri Award from Agra University. He has been recognized as the Best Independent Director 2011 by Asian Center for Corporate Governance, an association chaired by Mr. Mervyn King. Shri Bhargav has been recognized and honored for excellence in entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership by Horasis, the Global Visions Community, and was awarded the Global Indian Business Leader of the year 2013. In addition to his services to the country as a technocrat manager, Shri Bhargav is also a philanthropist of repute. Now I require Shri Bhargav to address the House.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Saxena, Mr. Devatia, Mr. Gandhi, Dr. Whaley, and Ms. Chintamani, members of the faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted and consider it a privilege to have had this opportunity this morning to share some thoughts about our country, our challenges. I would like to also first congratulate the individuals and the institution for its achievements last year, and also compliment the SVKM Trust for running such outstanding network of academic institutions. I can only say that getting a chance to speak after Dr. Saxena reminds me of a seminar in Japan where an Englishman came to speak. He got up and recognized that he had not requested for an entrepreneur. One of the members from the audience offered to interpret his speech, and he very enthusiastically started speaking. And after having said the first few sentences or a paragraph, he looked at the interpreter to translate. Interpreter took about 3 or 4 Japanese words and then looked back at the speaker to speak. The speaker was a little nonplussed. He thought the English was the richest language, and having used couple of hundred words, this man has translated in 5 words. He said, maybe since I was doing the salutations, it's okay. So he went to the next part of his speech, and this time again, after speaking for a few minutes, interpreter took only 3 or 4 words. That made him totally nervous, and he went to the concluding part of the speech. And finally, this time, the interpreter used only 2 Japanese words to conclude. At lunch, the speaker was totally nonplussed, and he asked the chairman, what happened? How did he translate in so few words? So the chairman, after a lot of reluctance, said, first time he said that he has said nothing new so far. Second time he said was that I don't think he's going to say anything new. And he said, then what happened finally? He said only 2 words. He said, I was right. So that's my situation. But then I'm going to try and do one up on Dr. Saxena by saying not the challenges today. I think Indian millennium, Indian century, Indian decade has been the buzzword over the last few years or some time. Has it happened? In fact, phenomenon India has been waiting to happen for a very, very long time, perhaps for centuries. Even during Ramaraj, which is a great, inspiring and mythological concept, the abject poverty was there then also. The stories of Kevat and Shabri and Sudamas are all chronicled very well. In that situation, today, if we are facing challenges, the phenomena India is waiting to happen. Until 91, India was recognized as the sleeping elephant. All of us were complacent, had comfort in maintaining the status quo. In fact, the Indian mindset has remained, and unfortunately partly today also, that past was great, future would be even greater, and present does not matter. And that's the mindset which has led to the current very difficult situation that we are in. Unleashing of competition in 91 made us to realize that our survival was under threat. And the 10 commandments which we heard that time was change, 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 and change, change, and change. And those of us who were able to adopt change survived. The change needs anticipating change, changing oneself, changing the organization and the teams you lead, managing change, and then finally enjoying change. If we do not enjoy change, we will not be continuously changing, and it will not be a sustainable platform at which we come. The gains that the Indian business, and for that matter, across the board, beyond the business also, India had in 91 after liberalization were three major gains to my mind. First one was the industry and business managers were empowered. The decisions could be taken by them and not in Udyog Bhavan. Number two gain was an entrepreneurship was unleashed of Indian managers, business people, traders, everyone. If global challenge was coming to India, why could we not take the challenge to their land? And that has been seen since then of the acquisitions and expansion of Indian businesses and industry. And third, most important change was that for the first time, the Indian business and Indian people started thinking strategically. Until then, the strategy was to be at Udyog Bhavan to stop the licenses of others and get licenses. Now, suddenly in 91, we realized that we needed a business strategy. We needed a strategy for the customer. We needed a strategy for the product. And we had to learn how to build a strategy. And I think the greatest gain at that time was recognition that strategy and people, which comes first? And the strategic analysis was that people come first. And without the human resource, whether it is in the family, academic institutions, business institution, we won't be able to move forward. Human resource suddenly become from an adversary union to a partner. A management professionals, a salaried employees became partners. And the people became the focus. And I think people are a very complex commodity. They have intelligence, they have emotions, they have feelings, they have expectations and aspirations. And in fact, in any domain, the leaders, whether CEOs or the deans or the vice chancellors, would perhaps find that 50% of their time goes in dealing with matters relating to people. To recruit them, Dr. Rajan talked about talent, to build them into a strong team, to keep them inspired and motivated are tasks which leaders have to accomplish. It's important to recognize that the designation or the title or the position you hold doesn't make you a successful leader. I think what's required and what recognizes a successful leader is the stature you have achieved. It's not the authority you exercise, it's the respect a leader has earned. It's not the decisions and the policies you have taken, but it's the influence you command. Leaders today in a changing world, competitive world, required many, many qualities from cognitive to core, the values, and the emotive. However, I think what is important equally is that leadership is to be institutionalized. It's not personalized. A leader runs with the baton for a few laps. And what we learned during this journey was that successful leadership definition, in fact, it got redefined. A successful leader was who made others successful. A successful leader was who had experienced failures to take inspiration and learning from that to become more successful as you go forward. A leader or a leadership is never proven. Leadership is to be tested every day. And I think this is where the leadership of today needs to be prepared and ready for being tested tomorrow and day after. And to know tomorrow and day after, one has to have some vision of the future, one has to some forecasting and expectations. And I think this is one of the major intellectual and visionary input required for a leader to be successful. What would drive the shape of the future? And I think there are thinkers, and globally in various journals, people have published talking about hundreds of changes which will be taking place, which will be driving the change in future. But I'll put them in about 5 buckets. Which are those? The first and foremost to my mind is the technology, including IT and digital. What this technology, and this is the trends which are already seen, so it's something which I'm saying is out of the way. The technology, IT, digital would mean number one is the connectivity across the world. It's predicted that more than 5 billion people will be connected by 2020, 2025. Now you can imagine the impact of that connectivity in the future. The second, of course, is globalization, which doesn't need any elaboration. We understand what it is. The third, I think, equally important trend which would change and shape the future would be the energy resources, renewables, which will include part of the concerns of global warming. It will also reduce the dependence and significance of commodities. The technology is moving at such a pace that oil already was, and so there would be many other sources, especially energy, where the renewables would come into focus. The fourth trend which is there is very clearly the demography. The age profile in different parts of the world is changing. Longevity is increasing across the world. And lastly, to my mind, the trend is a societal readjustment. All of us will be looking at new formulae, new equations for work and life balance. How it will evolve for each one of us would depend on us and watch space, what we are doing, but it won't remain what it is today. What would all these 5 trends mean in terms of real change which we would actually experience? I think the first would be the most very, very powerful network across the board, across the globe. For the type of connectivity which will be there, the networks have to become multifold sort of a increase in their capacity, both in terms of volume and speed. And it is, the world is working on that. And therefore, in fact, it's not a commercial on part of Tata Communication. That's our part of the business. We provide that connectivity across the globe. But that is really what is happening. Number 2, I think there will be more complex jobs. Either you are highly skilled or you would be doing something more at the vocational level. The middle level jobs will go away. There'll be need for those who are highly technology savvy, intelligent, can grasp and move in tomorrow's world of robotics and automation, etc., etc. Third, I think, which will be important in this room is the quality of education has to undergo major change. We will have to become global leaders in education, especially India and China. Education is not simply the science or the mathematics, but I think it's much more in terms of enlightened intellect, the values, and understanding the globe and global cultures to be able to successful in tomorrow's time. Talent clusters and attracting young would be another challenge. We have had Silicon Valley, we have had Japan and Korea, we have had German auto industry. But today with the cloud and connectivity across the board, I don't see these clusters not getting challenged. Yes, people with like-minded outlooks want to be together, but at the same time, the comfort and the family work and life balance may mean I would work out of home, I would be connected with California, Stanford, or anyone sitting here, and I won't be required to move to the talent cluster as we used to know them. But in all this, the greatest thing would be attracting the young. Whether it is in academia, it is in brick and mortar, it is in medical, it is in whichever space, the real challenge and fight will be whichever domain is able to get the youngsters will perhaps move faster than the rest. And we are suffering. These trends are there. I mean, today nobody wants to go to construction site, nobody wants to go to brick and mortar industry. It's all about IT and finance and consulting. Next change would be longer working life. I think I retired at 58. People retire at 62, 65. I think with the lifespan going to 100 plus, working life going to 80 plus. And that's another challenge for the youngsters. If we are not going to vacate this chair, how would the youngsters get motivated to move ahead? And therefore, they may go sideways somewhere, and hopefully in the something positive, not negative. One of the problems which we old people create is not get the opportunities created for youngsters, and then youngsters go in the wrong path, whichever they decide. I think lastly, what I mentioned about societal is very important. The changing family structures, they are already on micro-family. There are pressures on some countries to reverse that trend. There are pressures in majority of the world to try and contain the size of the families, micro. Perhaps more and more couples are deciding not to have children. And this will once again change where your time management for life and work balance, whether it's in virtual connectivity, it's real connectivity, offline, online. You can see the change already. I mean, I would perhaps be online 2 hours a day. My grandson of 7 years would love to be there on 10 hours a day. And this is going to change the lifestyle, the family lives of people. Let me also say that under all these changes, the leadership role and challenges are immense. Dr. Saxena talked about some of them. Let me just add a few. I think the concept of scale and quality would undergo an immense change. The CEOs of business, or for that matter, the chief medical professors or chancellors and vice chancellors would have to cope with the new scale and new standards of quality. The best quality in India is not going to be good enough. I think Dr. Saxena said about top 3 in India. I think that phrase has got to change to top 3 in the world, without which the consumer, the customer, would not be happy. The Indian customer will not accept anything which is less than comparable world quality. And I think that's the challenge we in India have a very serious one. We have come a far way from 91, but we are far away from the real world realities. Indian also run new CEOs, whether in business or anywhere. You talked about resources. I think that is becoming even more complex. The financial risk which the enterprises would be taking is increasing, because it's no more the Sensex or BSE. We are talking about global economy impacting the financial risk. The external borrowings and exchange rates are giving chief executives sleepless nights. So the financial risk which is coming is much more significant. The choices to the customer on multiple choices on products and services is increasing day by day. Sub-product categorization is done. Product and technology obsolescence are moving faster than ever before and will have so. And I think finally the digital technology, both at the marketplace and at the factory or elsewhere, would be the new task for the CEOs to take on. Now, all this perhaps would need, finally, to conclude, what I would call innovation. Innovation has to be understood correctly. Innovation is not incremental improvement. It's not a new product developed. I think innovation is based on an unlimited imagination, high risk-taking ability, and finally, it would be not just product, it could be process, it could be governance, it could be various processes in life, day-to-day life. And an innovation I would call must target a disruptive impact in the space or domain where it is. It's not taking away market share from somewhere. It's a disruptive entry into the space which would give the success tomorrow. And I think here I must say that I'm no fan of, in fact, let me say, I'm totally apolitical. But I must give credit to the innovation which Prime Minister Modi has brought in. Several, inviting SAARC leaders to his inauguration, dropping in Lahore on 25th of December, inviting heads of state, welcoming them in Ahmedabad, the Chinese chief. French chief would be welcomed in Chandigarh. He took the Varanasi Japanese Prime Minister. Now, these are somewhat disruptive diplomatic initiatives which he has taken. He has challenged the past practices. Whether they will deliver result or no is yet to be. The report card is not yet out. But I can tell you that whatever one sees about his Lahore seems to be giving some results. So you can see that if you are willing to challenge the current and be innovative, there's a lot to be done. And I think I need to be innovative also myself, because I know that I am standing here with, you're going to have Saturday, a famous leader, Rahul, coming and speaking to you. So the challenge is, do I perform in comparison to him? But I think talking about leadership, let me say that Rahul is coming here and there are leaders like him. They bring happiness wherever they go, wherever they come. And the other type of, they bring happiness whenever they go. It's time for me to go. Thank you.